And welcome to Stakelbeck on Terror. You're going to get some information today that will shock you. The Iranian-backed terrorist militia Hezbollah has set up shop in our backyard. And we've brought in two of America's leading experts on this threat to break it down for us. Roger Noriega is a former high-ranking State Department official and diplomat who's now a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. And Jose Cardenas is an associate with a great group called Vision Americas. He's also a former official in the administration of George W. Bush. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
I want to start with a report that the two of you recently put together for the American Enterprise Institute. I recommend everyone check it out at aei.org, and it is called The Mounting Hezbollah Threat in Latin America. It's a groundbreaking report. It's a real eye-opener, and I just want to go with an excerpt from it. You write, over the last several years, Hezbollah and its patrons in Iran have greatly expanded their operations in Latin America to the detriment of inter-American security and U.S. strategic interests. Today, Hezbollah is using the Western Hemisphere as a staging ground. Wow. Fundraising center and operational base to wage asymmetric warfare against the United States. Venezuela's Hugo Chavez and other anti-American governments in the region have facilitated this expansion by rolling out the welcome mats for Hezbollah and Iran in our hemisphere. Roger, I think a lot of Americans will hear that and they'll be shocked. What is Hezbollah up to in our neck of the woods?
Well, they are pushing in to this hemisphere because they want to carry their asymmetrical warfare to our neighborhood. And they have a willing partner in Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. This is a network that has existed in a nascent way in the Triple Frontier, for example, where Argentina, Paraguay, and Brazil meet. But now they have the run of the place in terms of Venezuela being not only a host, but an ally with their ambitions to attack U.S. interests and our security.
You know, you and I did an entire show last year about that Venezuela-Iran alliance, and Hezbollah, obviously, an integral part of that alliance. How much does Hugo Chavez's health affect that alliance? He's had cancer. He's getting cancer treatments, we understand. How much is his poor health affecting this alliance, if at all?
Well, at this point, the Iranians, Russians, and Chinese, by the way, are desperate, and the Cubans as well, are desperate to shore up whatever sort of relationship they can with Venezuela because they're afraid that Chavez is going to pass away. And frankly, it'll take a miracle for the guy to live another 12 months, and miracles weren't made for people like Hugo Chavez.
So you think Hugo Chavez is on his way out?
I believe he is, actually. The sources tell me that he's not responding well to the treatment for prostate cancer, etc., and he's not long for the world. But the bad guys that have relationships with him are intent on cementing those relationships. So we will have to use his passing as an opportunity to go in and pull these threats out from the roots, including the Hezbollah threat, including the Iranian presence, the mining of uranium, other activities that are going on right under our noses.
And a few things I want to make clear, and Roger and I, you did a show last year. Iran is mining for uranium in Venezuela. Iran is, according to some reports, trying to install missile bases in Venezuela as well. And one more thing before we even go on, Hezbollah is a virtual arm of the Iranian regime. When we're talking about Hezbollah in our hemisphere, we are talking about Iran in our hemisphere. Iran created Hezbollah. They fund Hezbollah. Hezbollah is an arm of the Iranian regime. Jose, Hezbollah has been here for quite a while, actually. Talk about the Triple Frontier region, which Roger mentioned, also known as the Tri-Border region, where Paraguay, Brazil, Argentina meet. Talk about that region and what Hezbollah is up to there.
Eric, that region has been the historical base of operations for Hezbollah in Latin America. It happens to be a large expatriate Arab communities living there. These are Lebanese, Syrian, expatriates, and as Roger indicated, that area has been a hotbed of smuggling and other corrupt activities.
Very lawless place.
Absolutely. And it was from there, one historical note, it was from that region that Hezbollah and Iran were able to begin the planning for the bombings in Buenos Aires, Argentina, in the early 90s. when they blew up the Israeli embassy and then a Jewish community center in Argentina. So they've already demonstrated a willingness to shed blood in our hemisphere. But from there, the Hezbollah presence has expanded into criminality that is involved in people smuggling, in drug trafficking, all through the region now. It is morphed into a very active proselytizing operation to convert more people to radical Islam in the region. They're looking for disaffected youth. And it also, again, is involved in undermining U.S. interests.
Tell me about Margarita Island, Roger. This is off the coast of Venezuela, and Jose talks about proselytizing. Apparently, Hezbollah has a very strong presence there, right off the coast of Venezuela, training in the ways of Hezbollah, their techniques. Right.
Well, there's a network of mosques and Islamic centers throughout Latin America that are part of this network. They recruit through them, they process people through them, and most fervent people are sent to Venezuela and also on to Qum in Iran for training.
The holy city in Iran, where it's the seat of Shia learning in Iran. Qum.
Right, and the conventional wisdom is it's all religious training, but no, they learn terrorist techniques, explosives and bomb making and arms training and all that. But on Margarita Island, which is really makes Triple Frontier look like a kindergarten today, they have the run of the place. I mean, we refer to this in the report as the Nasruddin Network. This is
which we're going to talk about.
Right, and they do training there. We know that in April of this year there were a couple of Iranian Hezbollah trainers that did training in Margarita Island for operatives that were brought to that place from throughout Latin America. This is an extraordinarily important base of operations for Hezbollah today.
In our hemisphere, just off the coast of Venezuela, this is all going down. That begs the question, Jose, what is the Obama administration doing about this, if anything?
Well, it's our government has traditionally been cognizant of the illegal activity that has been going on in the tri-border area. But what's happened is that they appear to be a bit behind the curve in terms of understanding how this evil has basically spread throughout the region. And they are mostly approaching it from a law enforcement capability that is not enough, quite frankly. As we argue in our report, we believe we need a interagency working group among the U.S. government to really appreciate the implications and the fullness of this threat.
Yeah, and Jose, Venezuela has just been very brazen about it. Hugo Chavez, you write in this report, and again, I encourage everyone to read it at aei.org, The Mounting Hezbollah Threat in Latin America, co-authored by Roger Noriega and Jose Cardenas. In your report, you talk about a terror summit that Hugo Chavez had in Venezuela, I believe, not too long ago, with leaders from Hamas, Hezbollah, and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Tell me a bit about that meeting.
Yes, that was convoked, but it is an example of the sheer brazenness of Hugo Chavez, who feels that he can bring these types of individuals into our hemisphere. And it also demonstrates an amazing confidence on the leaders, these terrorist leaders from the Middle East, to leave their protected areas because they know that if, for example, the Israeli government found out they were moving out of their area, they would very likely not ever be able to come back because the Israelis would eliminate them. Sure. So this brazenness in coming over into Caracas to talk about what else but undermining the United States, exploiting gaps in U.S. security. You mentioned the border with Mexico, and of course the news this week that there is an attempt to work with drug dealers there.
Right. Talk about brazenness, Jose. That's a great point. Just recently, we had this Iranian plot to assassinate Saudi, Israeli diplomats on American soil in Washington, D.C. That's as brazen as it gets. And Roger, also, you lay this out once again in your report, a terror cell, a Hezbollah cell in Cuba? Tell us about that.
Well, you know, it's no surprise that, again, in lawless Cuba, a dictatorship, that they've invested resources to establish a cell there that can operate with impunity.
And Castro is allowing this. Raul Castro.
And nothing happens in Cuba without the support, let alone approval.
This is happening now. Hezbollah is establishing a cell 90 miles off the coast of Florida. When we come back, we're going to talk about Hezbollah's links with Mexican drug smugglers along our southern border. Just frightening stuff. Stay tuned. And welcome back. I'm joined once again by Roger Noriega, Jose Cardenas, two foremost experts on the Hezbollah threat in our hemisphere. Jose, we've heard a lot of reports in the past several months about Hezbollah operatives possibly trying to hook up with Mexican drug cartels, cross the southern border. In your report, you lay out several really disturbing instances of that. There's a lot of credibility to this, isn't there?
Absolutely, Eric. What we've in our examination, in our of the reporting coming out of the area is that, for example, Hezbollah has, as strictly as a fundraising tool, has been involved in drug trafficking in our hemisphere for quite some time now. But what we're seeing now are indications that the relationship with the Mexican cartels are growing. Hezbollah long a time ago recognized the lucrative nature of drug trafficking and raising money, sending it back to the Middle East.
Very un-Islamic, I mean, you would think on the surface, right?
Exactly. But there's two disturbing indications that the relationships are deepening. One is that U.S. law enforcement in the border region are noticing an increasing sophistication in the use of car bombs by the Mexican cartels. And they are concluding that that technology could very well have come from Hezbollah. The other indication is increasing sophistication of drug tunnels underneath. We've all seen in U.S. reports about a new latest tunnel that's being discovered coming under the U.S.-Mexico border to move people and drugs. The increasing sophistication, again, has led U.S. law enforcement in the region to conclude that perhaps that technology also is coming from Hezbollah because it tracks very closely with the types of terror tunnels that Hezbollah has built under Lebanon into Israeli territory.
Roger, it sounds like, okay, over the years Hezbollah has been engaged in a lot of fundraising here in America, places like Dearborn, but in the West in general, in the Western Hemisphere. It sounds like they can make a leap very easily from fundraising to going operational, carrying out attacks in the Western Hemisphere. Is that right?
And I believe they've made that leap. You know, the conventional wisdom is that, first off, these guys are mostly involved in fundraising in the hemisphere, and that they would never attack on American soil. Well, conventional wisdom is deadly when it comes to these characters. We believe that they have gone operational, they have recruited, they have done training in our hemisphere, and you know, this isn't sort of meaningless training. I mean, they are training up for a purpose. And the contacts that they have now with narco terrorists, not only in South America but in Mexico, presents a real threat as they do operationalize and look for new techniques for carrying out their war against us.
Right. And Iran's Quds Force, real quickly, we have about 30 seconds, Iran's Quds Force as well, an arm of the Revolutionary Guards in Iran, also active here in the West, as you guys lay out.
Absolutely. The very Quds Force, an elite group that was involved in this plotting in a purposeful way, in a deliberate way, involved in this plotting, have operatives that operate in South America.
Coming up, you won't believe how far this Hezbollah network stretches throughout Latin America. Don't move. And welcome back. I'm joined once again by Roger Noriega, Jose Cardenas, talking about the Hezbollah threat in our hemisphere. And Roger, during the break, we were talking about how bold Iran and Hezbollah are becoming. They sense look, Iran has been at war with us for 32 years. We've taken it on the chin time and time again. We haven't struck back. Does Iran see that as a sign of weakness? Is that why they're being so bold, the lack of a response from us?
I think that's always been the case, that weakness is a provocation. And they expect, I mean, frankly, even before the Obama administration, they were getting a pass. But certainly during this administration, unfortunately, the message they get loud and clear is that we're not even prepared to do anything about their nuclear threat in a serious way.
They are this close to developing nuclear weapons. And just a little side note, guys, our own Pentagon last year released a report saying that by the year 2015, Iran may very well have intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach where we're sitting right now in Washington, D.C. That's just 3.5 years away, and they will be nuclear tipped. But Roger, go ahead.
Well, and so if we're not prepared to do anything purposeful about the nuclear threat,
sure.
What will we be willing to do when they're able to sort of work through proxies, for example, in the hemisphere, in kind of a low-level sort of challenge.
And plausible deniability.
Absolutely.
We didn't do it, hey.
We're using when you do narco trafficking, it's also waging sort of chemical warfare against U.S. schools and neighborhoods.
As you write in your report, it weakens the social fabric of the United States.
And that's purposeful part of their strategy. So they have surrogates. They have friendly governments in Ecuador and Venezuela and Bolivia and others that have let their guard down in other parts of South America, and they figure they can move in a quiet way, make some of these associations, and be prepared to strike if they're called upon to do so.
Jose, talk about that web. Venezuela is the main culprit of letting Iran and Hezbollah operate in our hemisphere. Absolutely. But and Cuba, as you mentioned, my gosh, 90 miles to our south. But talk about this just horrific web throughout South America that Iran is weaving. This is Ecuador, Bolivia. Talk about that bit.
Eric, they basically, as Roger alluded at the top of the program, is that Hugo Chavez has opened the door for Iran into other countries in the hemisphere, and fellow radical populists like Chavez exist in Ecuador, Rafael Correa, and Bolivia, Evo Morales. And because they are dependent on Chavez for so much financial largesse, they accepted these introductions to Iran and have begun developing their own relationships now. In Ecuador, we have information that we've written about that demonstrates negotiations on mining, exploiting Ecuador for, again, uranium.
For their nuclear weapons program.
Ecuador has bountiful amounts of uranium, and also other strategic minerals for military applications, missiles and others. They are currently pursuing headlong mineral exploitation in Ecuador. Next door in Bolivia, Iran financed the creation of a military academy that is training cadres in asymmetrical warfare, which is it's a fancy term for terrorism and subversion. And so that is going, and just earlier this year, the Iranian defense minister was there.
Ahmed Vahidi, a very bad guy, dangerous guy.
Absolutely. He was in Bolivia to inaugurate the opening of this defense academy.
And gentlemen, we stand by impotent when this is going on in our backyard. So much for the Monroe Doctrine. Roger, talk about Hezbollah now. They're an arm of the Iranian regime. But Hezbollah is intricately involved in really two networks that you lay out in your report. And again, you can find it at aei.org. The Mounting Hezbollah Threat in Latin America, which Roger and Jose co-authored, a groundbreaking report. You talk about two networks that are kind of the hubs of this in Latin America. The Rabbani Network and the Nasruddin, I might be pronouncing that wrong, Nasruddin Network. Tell me first about the Rabbani network and what they're doing here in our hemisphere.
Well, Mohsen Rabbani was an Iranian diplomat in the early 1990s and is implicated in the bombings in 92 and 94 in Buenos Aires.
We're going to leave it there, guys. We're short on time. But coming up, Hezbollah's here. What do we do about it? Stay tuned. And welcome back. We're wrapping up here with Roger Noriega, Jose Cardenas about the Hezbollah threat in Western Hemisphere. Guys, this is dangerous, scary stuff. Roger, first of all, what can the U.S. government do about it?
Well, let me just say, if I could go back to the Minister of Defense of Iran, Vahidi said, we are here because we want to be able to respond if the United States ever does anything against us. So their cards are on the table. They've explained what they're up to. They explained what the strategy is. We have to use asymmetrical efforts against them. If we see viable targets, frankly, we should deal with them. We have a law enforcement response, which, quite frankly, is pretty robust and good. The DEA has the lead. The Treasury is right along with them. Unfortunately, American diplomats are fighting when we try to sanction these people, nail down their ability to operate, nail down their bank accounts, shut them down, identify them, and respond in that way.
Jose, about 20 seconds. Anything else we can do?
Eric, I think that this news that broke this week about the Iranian agent conspiring with Mexican drug traffickers provides an incredible diplomatic opportunity for the United States to go to our partners in Latin America, to go to these governments and basically say that the line has been crossed, the welcome mat for Iran needs to be rolled up.
Put the onus on them. Gentlemen, thanks again. Roger Noriega, Jose Cardenas, AEI.org. Take care. Until next time, God bless.